All right, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland favored by 3. Of course, the big story here, Trevor Lawrence getting rolled up on the other night. It's a sprained ankle. It doesn't look like he's going to play this week.
So. They haven't ruled it out, but I would be pretty shocked if he did.
I mean, the next day they had the hashtag agent tweet or whatever where it's like Trevor Lawrence is going to do 24/7 rehab and do whatever he can. And then the next day it's like, we don't think he can go this week, but he's going to do whatever he can to be back for the Ravens game in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's probably C.J. Beathard against Joe Flacco in Cleveland.
It's not that it's not a big game. Like, this is a pretty important game for AFC playoff seeding, all those kinds of things. But it's like, is it really worth risking it? You know, like, wait another week. Like, just give him a shot. Like, that was a pretty bad sprain. It's obviously, like, it ended up being sort of quote unquote just an ankle sprain. But the fact that, like, he couldn't put any weight on that immediately after it happened, you know, tried to stand up, couldn't, had to just and then had to hobble his way to the x-ray room and stuff. Like, that feels like you need more than a week.
It was a high ankle. I mean, the high ankle sprains are historically 3-4 week injuries, you know, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, depending on. I think that's what Mahomes had last year in the playoffs, and they're always different degrees. And
right.
Mahomes, you know, got whatever happened in the locker room at halftime and came back in the same game against the Jags, but he was still hobbled the following week against Cincinnati. It is a multi-week injury that will affect things, especially a guy like Lawrence who's so mobile.
That's the thing. Lawrence is a quarterback that has been, you know, his mobility, his capacity to run around, to move is a pretty big part of his game. If he can't do that, you know, do you really want him against the Browns pass rush? Maybe Myles Garrett isn't quite the same force he was while he's dealing with his shoulder injury, but still, that's a pretty risky defense to be exposing him to if he's not 100%, just because he's your best option. It's a massive, you know, drop off, obviously, if you're going Trevor Lawrence to C.J. Beathard, but it might be worth just sacrificing a game rather than risking your quarterback. Again, like the Eagles, they need him in January, not necessarily right now.
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, he's not going to play in this game, I don't think. But the problem is January, I'm not saying it's all slipping away, but this is a tough game against the Browns.
Yeah.
They have the Ravens coming up on Sunday Night Football.
That's what I mean.
In a couple weeks. So
it's not a game that you can just sacrifice and say, to hell with it, we don't need this one. Like, they could really do with this one, but it's not. I don't think it's worth risking Lawrence to try and save it.
They also had Christian Kirk go down with an injury. He is out already. He's going to miss some time. Per Doug Peterson, the rest of the injury report is a lot of skill position players. Travis Etienne, Zay Jones, even C.J. Beathard sitting there with a shoulder injury, questionable. So Jacksonville's really banged up. And then as far as Cleveland goes, I mentioned that the defense has come back down to earth over the last month or so, or whatever that time period is. Remember, there was a point where we said, hey, if QB can just go in and manage the game and not turn it over, not have they had the 2 lowest graded quarterbacks in the NFL at one point in DTR and PJ Walker. Joe Flacco played better than that the other day, but the defense has not been as good, perhaps coinciding with Myles Garrett playing injured as well.
Yeah, absolutely coinciding with that. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco goes out there and has that efficient game that you're talking about with the addition of the one patented Joe Flacco lunatic play. At a
bad time.
Yeah.
Obviously, when they were backed up, it led to the Rams going up a score. But yeah, if Flacco could play, I mean, if Flacco gives them that game every week, and especially this week against Beathard, that should work. But who knows? Week, yes. You never know. Like, we just saw Jake Browning look like Drew Brees the other night. So,
but it is like, it's this classic. Joe Flacco is now he's a perfect game managing quarterback, with the exception of there will almost certainly be one, if not more, terrible play in there. So it's like, can you still be a game manager with one awful, boneheaded, probable turnover in there? That's what you're asking for the Browns. And it's like, with the previous defense, probably. With the current version, maybe.
Jags defense got absolutely carved up on Monday Night Football against Jake Browning. Give them credit. I mean, give Browning credit. But the Jags defense had been one of the best in the league, one of the best coverage grades. I mean, they've had issues basically back-to-back weeks.
And nothing complicated either. Like, players like Tyson Campbell just got wrecked individually, one-on-one.
If you look at the Jags team coverage grades for the season, it's pretty hilarious, actually. Their 3 worst coverage grades all came against Kyle Shanahan and friends. So the Niners and the 2 Texans games. So Shanahan and Slowick carving up the Jags defense.
Slowick.
And then the Bills and the Bengals. But yeah, they have had games, this Jags defense, where they held Kansas City to 17, and they did a really nice job contesting every throw. And then there's games like the other night where it wasn't so good. Browns, we saw a little connection between Joe Flacco and Elijah Moore. So I think it'll be a good game here, man. Browns by 3. Could be a weather game here too. Cleveland, December. I need a weather report.
You need a weather report.
Yeah, I think it's going to be low scoring.
The weather report is 45 and light rain.
Light rain?
Yep, light rain.
That's enough. That's all you need in Cleveland.
I mean, if C.J. Beathard is the starting quarterback, I think the Browns by more than 3 is an absolute, not a guarantee because, it's Joe Flacco, but pretty likely. So, Browns.
I see a 77% chance of rain.
It's only light, though. Light rain.
Some light rain is likely. That's also what I'm saying. Wind 10 to 20 miles an hour. Yeah, give me the Browns. I'm not buying into Beathard as a backup. It's going to put a little challenge on Jacksonville. They're a game up on Houston, right, in the AFC South. But this tough game this week and then coming up, like I said.
Yeah, losing this game would be very bad for Jacksonville. I mean, losing last one was obviously like they were in the number 1 seed contention. Then they drop out. Now they're 1 game away from really dropping down the rankings or dropping right into the pack in the AFC.